Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the CMI webinar series designed for and by CMI. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the series. Some of you have been on many of our webinars. Others of you may be new for the first time. These webinars are hosted by Colorado School of Mines, and I'm Cynthia Howell. I'm at Colorado School of Mines, and I am the Outreach and Workforce Development Training Manager for the Critical Materials Institute. And today I'm going to be your moderator. I want to let you know that after the webinar has been completed, that you will be able to access this sometime next week at aimslab.gov. We are also always looking for topics that are pertinent to you. So please don't hesitate to send us in the end survey and or via an email another idea for a topic that again is really something centered around what you would like to hear. We are always taking those options. Now, also, we're going to get to the presenter is going to go through his presentation, and at the very end, we will have time for question and answer. We are using the Q&A box, and there's plenty of time during the presentation to actually type in your question. That way, there are some questions queued up before we actually start, and works the very best. So please get those questions out there. I don't want to take too much more time on logistics, but I do want to introduce our presenter today, Terrence Mosley, and he is the Senior Advisor for Diversity and STEM for the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Energy and Renewable Energy. And his work really centers around lowering barriers that are entry to minority-serving institutions. And again, his efforts are centered around exposing more underrepresented minorities to potential clean energy careers. Previously, he was at DOE as a AAAS fellow with EERE's Building Technology Office. And then many years, he actually moved back and forth between Delphi Automotive and General Motors in engineering and management roles. So award-wise, he was honored with Black Engineer of the Year Award for his efforts in increasing diversity for the STEM pipeline, something near and dear to my heart. And Mr. Mosley also, he received his master's in mechanical engineering from Georgia Tech. And I don't want to take any more of his time. Terrence, if you would like to take over.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sounds good. And thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Everybody, it's such a pleasure to present for you and to talk with you today. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, I really just wanted to talk through driving innovative workforce and R&D partnerships to diversify clean energy industries. And mainly what it's about is kind of the efforts that we are taking at DOE's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy to try to do just that, to diversify the clean energy workforce and R&D workforce. And we're trying to come up with creative ways to do that. So let me just quickly set the stage here because what we'll do, we're going to go over the diversity strategy framework, which is something that I've tried to set up over the last year, which really starts to get into the whys of what we're doing and the framework in which we try to work under to make these initiatives happen. We'll talk over some accomplishments, and basically this will be some of the programs that we've stood up in the last year or two that really are helping us to start to get to the goals that we have. And then of course at the end we'll take time for some Q&A and discussion at the end. So first, as I mentioned, the diversity strategy framework. And for me, what this means is this was really important from the beginning to try to set this up, because I really believe that any work that we do under these initiatives, really it all has to fall under certain focus areas to really make sure that it works. And so for me, I have what I call my 3 I's, and it really, everything that we do within our organization as well as with external stakeholders is based around these 3 focus areas. And so the first is inspire. And it's pretty self-explanatory, but what we're trying to do is make sure that we're inspiring the future clean energy workforce. And so any initiative that I undertake is going to fall under one of these 3 categories. So the first is inspire. The next one is initiate. So that's going to be kind of taking a lot of ideas that we have and working up the best ideas and trying to initiate those into new ideas and new working partnerships. And that can be done, through internal efforts, through efforts that we do in conjunction with other government agencies or other universities or whatever the case may be. And then the last bucket is integrating them. And so what we're doing is we're evaluating some of these initiated ideas, and we're working hard to try to take the best ideas and the things that we think really are going to work towards our goals and integrate those into our daily business practices. So that's what I call the I3 strategy. So we'll go a little bit further into that. So under inspire, just to give you a little bit more idea and a little bit more in depth of where I'm going with this. We want to internally inspire our employees. And a lot of that is really based on spotlighting the work of our diverse EERE employees to raise morale and to really show value to the workforce. So we're undergoing a lot of efforts to do that. And I'll cover more detail of this a little bit later. Then we want to inspire the youth. So externally, we want to inspire the youth of the country to, really through establishing relationships with K through 12 groups, undergraduate, graduate students at universities like the ones that you all represent online here that are interested in STEM careers like those that we have at DOE. And of course, we're more, we're really trying to inspire the youth to look at careers in the green energy space and in clean energy, so that as we teach more about careers at DOE as well as across our national lab system, that we can inspire those to consider those in the future. Now we're talking about just inspire the future, and a lot of this comes with targeted recruiting that we've set out to do with the DOE brand known for strong STEM careers, and once again including national lab system. We've really gotten out this past year to really start back actively recruiting at a lot of the diversity conferences that happen, whether it's ACES or SHIP or NSBE, different groups like that, where we really are trying to get out there and meet the top technical talent across the country from all backgrounds. And we recruited all universities at, mostly all universities across the country, but we really are running a lot of targeted efforts to try to make sure that we are present in all settings and with a lot of different diverse groups. And the last one here is we want to inspire the public, and part of that is done. It's amazing to know how much importance that communications has in what we do. I know as engineering majors, a lot of us have always heard the fact that that as we're matriculating through school, that it's not just about the technical degree, but you need to be good in English and speaking and public speaking and all of these other things. But it really is important to communicate the work that you're doing. And for us, it's at an overall EERE level in our program offices to talk about the work we're doing and making sure that we're getting it out there to as much of the public as we can, so that we can get people more familiar with what we do, and in turn hopefully that gains support for what we're about and what we're trying to do for the population. And so we've done a lot of work in the last year with publicizing the work that we do and our people and leadership through targeted media that we've done for diverse audiences, through some technical magazines, websites, things like that we've done to try to get the word out on what we're doing. So that's under the inspire bucket. Now we come to initiate again. And this is where we'll touch more on this when I get to the accomplishment section, but really under our new programs, just in the last year, we've worked up and developed new funding agreements in partnership with both the Army as well as the National Science Foundation to provide for really more HBCUs and MSIs, to give them more of an opportunity to work with EERE doing research and other partnerships. And we want to continue trying to grow those type partnerships so that we don't it's not wasting time, but we want to be efficient in our efforts. And if there are best practice programs that we can partner with at other government agencies, then we want to do that instead of recreating the wheel. And so we found some success here in trying to work with broadening participation in STEM areas within clean energy. Now, next, we've also initiated new pipelines, and some of you may be familiar with it. I think some of the schools that I noticed that were participating partners with the CMI. I think some of you are actually GEM Fellowship universities, member universities. So one of the newer things that we've done, we've established a new pipeline program with the agreement with the GEM Fellowship, where we'll be bringing in highly talented minority master's and PhD students within STEM fields within our EERE and national lab system. So that's something new, and we're really excited about that. We'll have our first total class of GEM fellows for next summer, and so we're almost at our interview and selection stages now. Also, we're initiating new prizes, and we participate in what's called the American Made Challenges program. Some of you may be familiar with, but we actually have found some success with running prizes or challenges in which we try to really target different areas of focus in order to fund ideas that universities or organizations have that go towards furthering our efforts in the clean energy space. And normally, the majority of the research funds that we award each year come through our funding opportunity awards, or our FOAs for short. And a lot of you may be, very familiar with our normal FOAs that come out during the year, or different RFIs or notice of intents that come out during the year for our funding opportunities. Well, those opportunities, there's a lot of restrictions on those, and a lot of blackout periods, and there's times where we can't really answer a lot of questions past the initial webinar phase and initial question phase, and so the prize systems, we found that there's a little more flexibility with how and when we can discuss matters with participants, and we're trying to find different ways to lower barriers for everyone to be able to work with us and receive award funds based on relevant topic areas to EERE. So you'll see more of that over the next few years. And then we're talking about initiating new training. And once again, I have internal and external responsibilities. And one of the things that we've done is we've started offering more opportunities for diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility training, where one of the things that we did earlier this year, we've actually started offering unconscious bias training for our top management, from our assistant secretary all the way down through our top leadership, to make sure that as we're hiring, as we're going over award recipients, that in everything that we do, we want to make sure that we are aware of our biases and that we try to reduce those biases going into different situations. And so we've done that, and we've also started initiating a lot of listening sessions for our employees, so that we can try to make sure that our workplace is comfortable and that we're listening to them and making sure everybody feels valued and heard. And so we're working a lot in this space to find new training opportunities that we can present for our staff. And then last, of course, we're wanting to initiate relationships with new talent. And it could very well be with some of you online today. One of the things that we're really wanting to always do is increase diverse reviewers for our EERE funding awards through our regular FOA processes and some of the other prizes in different areas that I'm talking about. So we're always on the lookout for more of a complete, diverse set of reviewers for all of our funding awards, and also more Minority Serving Institute participation in our student competitions. And for those of you online that come from universities that maybe do not currently participate with our student competitions, I would highly recommend that you just do a Google search on DOE EERE student competitions, and whether it's our solar decathlon or our eco car challenge, or we have various versions with the solar decathlon, where we have a design competition that's not quite as intense as our build competition. We have, marine energy competitions, we have for water, we have, geothermal, wind energy competitions, anything you can think of. So definitely check those out, as we would love to have schools that have not participated before take part in that. Now, next we talk about integrate. And I'll talk more about some of these programs later in more detail, but we're going to continue integration. One of the key programs that we've done this year is called MSRDC, which is acronym for the MSI STEM R&D Consortium. And what we are doing, when I mentioned the agreement that we had in place with the Army, one of the great things with that is that we have access now to a consortium of over 70 plus minority serving institutions that we have an agreement in place with, where we can directly fund R&D that is relevant to some of our program office areas. And we've had a good bit of success with that in the first year in initiating a lot of work with minority serving institutions that that wasn't being, that it just gave us another vehicle to perform that with. And it's really helped us to boost our relationships and award dollars that are going out to MSIs. We're integrating future talent. I mentioned the GEM Fellowship. We did 2 pilot years with one of our program offices, our Building Technologies office, and now we've integrated that fellowship into our EERE student programs across the board. And so we hope to have a very long relationship with them and continue to encourage minority talent to go on to achieve great things and achieve these graduate degrees. Also, integrating EERE branding. When I mentioned our increased participation with minority conferences, we are doing that really to create more brand recognition across diverse audiences. And we really want to make sure that people out there know what we do and who we are, and that we're a great place to consider coming to work and interning or working full time. Then the last thing, we want to continue to find opportunities to integrate our people into the community. One of the things that we've been working hard at as well is really cultivating chances to recognize more of our staff, and not only that, but to provide volunteer opportunities with STEM activities in our local and regional communities. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but one of the ways we're doing this, some of you, especially from particular universities, may be active with a program like the First Robotics program. We are working to get involved with that. We are involved with that for the 22-23 academic year. So we're just starting a new relationship with them this year, where we will have a lot of opportunities for our employees to get out in the community, to meet students from the K through 12 fields, to really network with universities that work with the programs, and talk to these students, to really groups of ideal students like this that we want to consider STEM careers and hopefully clean energy careers in the future. So that's kind of the total picture of what we're trying to do and the different buckets that it falls under. So from there, in doing that, these are just some of the groups that we're working with and trying to form partnerships with. I mentioned First Robotics and NSB and NSF and AAAS. We're working on different groups. We're working with different groups in different ways that we can publicize what our employees and what our leadership is doing. And so we're working very hard to every day to continue to expand the list of groups that we work with. So from there, I'll get more into the accomplishments that I talked about. And this is more or less just kind of going into the programs that we've initiated, some that I've mentioned to you over this past year or two, where we're really seeing some good results come from those. So the first one I'll talk about, and this is internal. I wanted to kind of cover internally first before I get to some of the more public-facing programs. But some of the steps that we've taken over this past calendar year that I think I just like to communicate with people, just to, it may give you ideas on things you could do on your campuses or different approaches that you could take. But one of the things that we've tried to do is really first just be transparent. And one of the first things that we did when I came in, we wanted to really publicize to our personnel as to what our demographics looks like. People ask that a lot of times, and they don't really know necessarily the breakdown of people within our offices and within our within the different sectors of DOE. And so one of the things we decided to do within our office is that we actually put together demographics reports by our main deputy assistant secretary sectors that freely and openly shares current discrepancies of people of color, Blacks, Indigenous, and people of color, employees within EERE. And so that's been something that's been very successful. And I think that people have appreciated that because it's not a secret or anything. We want people to know what we look like, what our breakdown is, and it also helps us to not just justify, but to actually really show people this is why we are, doing more recruiting in certain areas than others, because we know where we need to increase our population. We know we want to look more like America looks on a day-to-day basis. And so we're working hard on that. And then I briefly mentioned, listen. I briefly mentioned that we're really working hard to listen to our workforce and working to create a culture of more inclusive candor. And part of that has been through the listening sessions that we've done, and we really started getting good feedback and a lot more people taking part in those. And then the third item, communicate and publicize. Like I said, a lot of us in STEM and engineering, we don't realize the importance of communications, but we started doing an internal and external spotlight series that really included a number of our internal and external web and magazine articles through different minority engineering and scientific magazines that really will help brand us with young people as a place that they need to consider to work. I mentioned that because those of you at universities, I think it's really important that as if you maybe your research lab or within your area of the College of Engineering or other colleges there, that you really want to have a good relationship with your media department and with your comms departments to be able to feature work that you're doing and really feature your students and go from there. So it's something that doesn't ever hurt. And so fourth, I mentioned the training. We really put a focus on DEIA training, and I mentioned the unconscious bias training that was held for all of our top management, including the assistant secretaries. So that really went well. And then recruitment and outreach, I mentioned that a little bit, but we've been trying to be more efficient with this as well, and partnering with other DOE offices. We've participated in multiple conferences this year, with our employees taking part in panel sessions, as well as, recruiting at career fairs. And we're really trying to, as I mentioned before, build our brand name among diverse audiences. And we just recently finished another effort where we received really great response. We put together I worked with our comms and our uh, um, human resource people to put together what we call STEM timber information sessions. And so every Thursday during September, we had what we call STEM timber information sessions, and you could kind of look at them as like almost virtual career fairs or information sessions that we held for the public, to really let them know what we do at EERE, let them know some more about our people. And we really featured a lot of our employees, and they were able to share their own personal stories as to why they wanted to work in clean energy, or why they left other industries to come into clean energy because of it being something that they were passionate about. And it really was effective. And that's part of what we've been trying to do to give our employees more of a chance to volunteer for various events during the year. So these are just things that I think that you could, put into your toolkit just to consider, some different things that might work for you, like we hope that they will work for us. Then the next thing I'll get into more of these, this gets into the specific programs that I was talking about before. This was the first one that I talked about. I mean, this was one of the first ones I talked about a little bit ago, the MSI STEM Research and Development Consortium. This one here it really helped us to relieve a problem of reducing barriers to entry for minority serving institutions to do more work with us at DOE. And this particular consortium, it's like I mentioned before, I think it's a group of over 70 plus MSI members that really serves as a united effort to gain a larger share of R&D awards with federal government agency partners. So really for us, it's the way that we work it the same way that we do a lab call with our national lab system. We can put out research R&D calls to our national labs. Well, this is just another way we can do that, but directly to minority serving institutions. And we have a 3-year agreement in place with them now between us and the Army, and to do this, to work directly with institutions that belong to the consortium. And just in the last year, our program offices have directly funded over $8 million in R&D awards to MSIs, including over 1 million to HBCUs in that first year. So we really are excited about that, and we've already got new projects started for FY23 to move forward. The next one that that we're really excited about, I mentioned to you about how we're doing new prizes. Well, we put on one last year that's called the Inclusive Energy Innovation Prize. And the great thing about this one, this is one we're really proud of, because it relieved the problem of a lot of barriers that really traditionally have deterred underrepresented groups in the clean energy innovation ecosystem. This prize really helped us with that, because we launched a $2.5 million prize, and the original plan was to award about 10 awards of between 200 to 250,000, and it really is aimed at increasing participation in the clean energy innovation ecosystem, and it could come through different. It has come through different avenues, whether it is minority-based incubators in the clean energy space, or different community groups that are trying to work within their communities in the clean energy innovation ecosystem. This really helped us in meeting in trying to attempt to meet a lot of our Justice 40 goals, which is an initiative that you may have heard of during this administration, where we're trying to derive 40% of the benefits of the R&D and the work that we do, to make sure that they are going to underserved communities. And so this was just another way that we did this, but this prize was so successful that we had to find, we had to dig to find more funding to support an additional 8 projects for investment. And we probably could have funded more than that if it was available. But it really has helped us to learn a lot about what different groups are needing to participate in prizes like this, and you know what a lot of groups are wanting to do with the funding. And you know, we have another group that actually came out of this group, out of this prize, where this year we're looking to do an inclusive energy prize for that's more on a university level. We're calling it the Inclusive Energy Collegiate Competition. And so you can feel free to look up information on that as well. But that is something that we're looking at to try to put out there, because we found that there were a lot of collegiate groups that wanted to participate in this space as well, but weren't quite at the same level as some of the bigger organizations and nonprofits that were applying for the other funds. So anyway, we're excited about that for the upcoming year. And then I mentioned partnership. We have a new partnership with NSF. And I know a lot of you work with NSF, you know, a lot of you probably receive funding from NSF. And one of the things that we wanted to do, this is where I mentioned, you know, I've been a reviewer for NSF for a long time for, you know, various programs. And one of the things that I learned is that, you know, within DOE, because we're such a heavy R&D organization, we're not necessarily focused on STEM all of the time. You know, we're really focused on hard R&D and you know, deployment and those kind of projects. And so in order for us to participate more effectively and efficiently with STEM, with best practice STEM programs, we decided to work up an agreement with NSF where we can reach their larger and more diverse STEM research community than we have, than our you know, traditional research community, and try to broaden the impacts that our funding, you know, can have in underrepresenting, you know, in encouraging more underrepresented groups to take part in STEM and clean energy. So we recently initiated a 5-year, $50 million interagency agreement with them. And it gives us the ability to fund various STEM best practice programs within NSF, where we will hope to receive proposals from institutions like yours across the country that create various, you know, that help us to reach various goals, whether it's creating, you know, new clean energy technician training programs, you know, focusing on curriculum improvements and additions to, you know, to make sure that we're giving kids the best and most up-to-date clean energy education as possible. And also, you know, K through 12 scholarship and summer programming, you know, all based around inspiring young people to pursue careers in clean energy industries. So we already have our first project up and running. As a matter of fact, some of you may get an email. We put out a dear colleague letter yesterday. We did a joint announcement with NSF with our geothermal technologies office. As you see at the bottom, we have we're funding non-academic industry internships from our geothermal office to better prepare grad students to participate in the geothermal industry. And we're really encouraging the participation of graduate students from all groups, you know, especially underrepresented groups in clean energy related STEM fields, you know, women, persons with disabilities, veterans, and persons from economically disadvantaged backgrounds. We really want to open it up to where we feel our funding can help us to get to all of these different audiences. So anyway, so that's just something to be on the lookout for. And like I said, if you have anybody working on geothermal projects within your universities, please feel free to let them know about this, because we want as many young people to consider these geothermal internship opportunities that will come through this partnership. And I think we're going to have probably room for between 10 to 20 grad students that participate in this program. So we're really excited about that. And also, we'll be working to form agreements with NSF on various topics. So, this is one that's more related to workforce, but we also are looking at different programs at NSF that some of our officers are interested in investing in. And when we put out these Dear Colleague letters that you're probably used to getting, you'll be able to see clearly that there will be DOE involvement in some of these the Dear Colleague letters that come out. So you'll be able to see which industries that we're interested in supporting and the types of students or programs or proposals that we're looking for. So we're really excited about this and can't wait to see some of the results that come from it. And then last but not least, I mentioned, I think the first one I mentioned here was the GEM Fellowship Program. And I'm sure some of your universities are taking part in this program for helping underrepresented students to achieve advanced degrees, masters and PhDs in different science and engineering fields. And basically what this, what it does, it provides, minority and undergrad and grad students with internships during the summer while they are attending school on the fellowship. And we really had we ran a really great and well-received pilot within our building technologies office for 2 years. We had a couple of cohorts of GEM fellows that worked in conjunction with our National Renewable Energy Lab out in Colorado, in conjunction with our building technologies office to kind of do a dual mentorship program. And as I mentioned earlier, this will be the first year that the program will be available to all of our EERE offices to utilize the program. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a view into kind of what we've been working on and a lot of hard work that's been going on to try to get to the point of diversifying clean energy industries. And with that said, I mean, I'll open it up for questions and answers, and I'll check the Q&A. I don't see anything in the Q&A right now.
So
but
Terrence, we
yes.
actually had one question in the Q&A that I answered already. They had asked for where they could find this recording. And again, I put in the cmi.aimslab.gov and under the webinars for the individual that asked the question. But it does look like we do have a
yes,
question up
I
here
do
right
see
now.
this.
Mhm.
Yeah, let me. All right. Thank you for your question. I see for the MSI STEM R&D Consortium. Do you fund projects that are led by an MSI and include non-MSI project team members? That is a great question. And you are correct in the fact that it does have to be led by either a it has to be led by a member institution of the consortium or a group of member schools from the consortium that are working together. The great part is, if you're not a member, it's very easy to join. It's not strictly limited to minority serving institutions, because they do realize that in a lot of cases they would like to partner with PWIs or predominantly white institutions or other larger institutions that may not belong to the consortium. I believe the consortium has like and I'm probably using the wrong word, but I think it's like an associate membership, or they even have industry partners that they have as members that can potentially work on projects together with universities. What I would do is definitely, if you want to, well, what I can try to do, and I can get this back to Maureen or Cynthia, you can Google them and just look on the website, or I can send a link later. But it's very easy to find. If you just Google them, you can go to the home page, and they do have a tab for members, so you can actually get a look at all of the members of the consortium, where they're located. Maybe there's some close to your university. Doesn't matter if you are close or not, because really you could contact them to potentially become a university member or participant. And I think that would be fantastic. So, and maybe you already have a relationship with certain MSIs that you may want to partner with. So once you look at the member listing, see if there's any universities with professors that you work with currently, and maybe there is a good way to partner with that. Oh, and I see your response that your university is a member. That's perfect. Let me tell you this: if your school is already a member, one of the best ways one of the ways that we're trying to utilize this is that I'll put it this way: if you already have some relationships with technology managers or staff from our particular office within DOE, within energy efficiency and renewable energy, you could strike up a conversation with that particular office in order to potentially work on project ideas that you might have. If they have funding available, we can fund projects through this vehicle. If you don't already have a connection with someone in the office, then what you can do is actually work through the consortium. And if you have some ideas on potential projects, we actually advertise a lot of opportunities. We several of our offices have run consortium calls open to the whole consortium for proposals in relevant areas. So be on the lookout through their website to also see what consortium calls that we're putting out to look for proposals. So I appreciate that very much. And I didn't catch what university you're from, but definitely if you're already a member, please, consider taking part in some of our consortium calls and turning in proposals because it's a much quicker process than some of our normal funding opportunities, and it's really precisely the reason why I brought it to EERE, because we want to lower barriers and make it easier for people to work with us and do R&D in relevant areas to us. And it also helps us to discover talent that we may not have worked with. And when I say talent, I mean students and professors, because we're always needing new professors and talent for attending, taking part in peer reviews, different things like that. So starting those relationships is what's key. All right, I think I see a second one here
Yes.
from Stacy.
Mhm.
How does a person apply for a GEM fellowship? All right, that one is very easy too. If you do a search for GEM fellowship, you can just Google it, but I can also send a link later if I need to. But basically, the application process happens during the summer. It's funny that you asked that question. That the application process just ended yesterday, and so for the new class of GEM fellows that are coming in to intern with us during the 2023 summer, their application process ended yesterday. I think the application process is every year between June, and don't quote me on this because I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it's either mid-June to November 15th or either July 1st to November 15th, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. If you go to the website, you'll see it clearly. And what happens is that there's a group of member universities and a group of member companies, and when the students apply, the member companies go in and actually review resumes and really work at um, go through and select students to interview and partner with for all of our GEM fellow spots that we have available for that next summer. So that's the process, though. It's basically turning in your application during the summer. It gets closed out November 15th. Selection processes start usually around the last week of November to early December, and runs all the way through, till, I don't know, till March or something like that. And, so that we can make sure to have all students lined up with their internships for the next summer. So that is it. But I thank you for that question. And I see here from Yoshiko Fujita, I think it is great that you started talking about diversity within EERE itself and its efforts to become more inclusive. Do you have enough data yet to look at how demographics have changed at EERE since the programs you described started? No, good answer. Good question though. We don't have that yet because we literally just started a lot of this process within, since you know, March or April of this year. I just came in November of, well, you might as well say December, but I came in very late last year and really hit the ground running with trying to initiate a lot of these programs. And we've had great support in getting them started up. And I think the first step is just seeing that people appreciate us publicizing the demographics and seeing where we are right now. One thing I didn't mention is that when I mentioned the publicity that we do and a lot of the work that I do with the communications team, part of that is working with our internal website because during the year, we started in January, we actually have worked with every employee resource group through DOE to publicize their efforts. And what our employee resource groups are, they're different, ethnic categories or groupings of people, whether it's our, Blacks in Government group, we have a Latino organization, we have, a professional women's group, we have a young professionals group, we just started a couple of new ones for Native Americans and people with disabilities. We work really hard to, over this past year, we're really happy with it too, that we have partnered with every employee resource group within DOE to publicize what they're doing, to see where we can try to help them find more volunteers and members to join their organizations. So I think that's something else that has really been appreciated. And then on the demographics that you mentioned, we just started hitting a lot of the new career fairs that we, haven't perhaps gone to in the past a lot. And so it's going to probably take a couple of years, actually. I mean, it'll probably take a couple of cycles, recruiting cycles, and just seeing where we change. Now, one thing we will probably be able to see after maybe a full year, year and a half, we have been hiring a lot. We have a lot of openings because of our clean energy core effort. And once again, this is something that you can just Google. If you Google DOE Clean Energy Core, I think you'll be able to see probably a video that Secretary Granholm did. And there's a few other things that we have out there where we are, because of the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, we'll be, we're definitely expanding and needing a lot of people, new people, project managers and engineers and, finance people, grants management people, all of that kind of thing, all of those positions. And so, hopefully after a full year of that recruiting cycle as well, we should be able to see kind of the difference in where we look, in about a year or so. So I'm hoping, maybe if I come back next year, we can talk about that with some more definitive numbers, but I appreciate the question very much.
Terrence, thank you so much for a great presentation. And I think many of us out there, we are going to be looking up Terrence Mosley so that we can take part in some of the great programming that he presented. CMI, we actually do work with a couple of underserved pre-college programs, and that's kind of awesome to be a part of that workforce building. And again, I'm sure that you have stimulated other thought from all of the members across the board who are on today regarding where we can go next and what might be a new opportunity for either our students and or our institutions. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm very, very happy to do that. And, one thing I forgot to mention, Cynthia, and I'm glad you mentioned that, was that I think the only other thing I wanted to bring to this presentation was just the idea. I had definitely looked up more info on CMI and kind of got a better understanding for participating universities and some of the labs. And I know that you all already work with several of the national lab system. I think the only thing that I would throw out there just for consideration is under the participating universities. I didn't necessarily see, and I don't have it remembered by heart, but I don't think I saw any historically Black colleges, or there may have been a Hispanic serving institution or two. But the one thing that I would throw out, and it's something that we have under consideration too, of how we're trying to partner with different groups, is that, maybe at a certain point there can be an effort to maybe mentor some of the smaller schools, or either, well, regardless if it's a larger MSI or not, maybe there's a way to do some sort of a road show or something, or give exposure to more HBCUs and other MSIs that are doing materials research, where it would be awesome to be able to see if there could be a partnership or some new new relationships created there as well. So any way that I can help with any of those kind of discussions, I'm here to help. And so I just want to throw that out as well. And I think there's room for all of us to continue to try to expand our relationships and our relationship bases, and really open up our industries to more people to participate. So I just want to throw that out as a resource as well. And I think y'all are doing great work, and I definitely want to just continue, encourage continued openness like this and discussions like this, and be able to hopefully continue to open up and proliferate the work that you all are already doing.
Well, thank you for being a resource for us. Again, such great information. I know there are going to be several people contacting you, including myself. This recording is going to be available next week at aimslab.gov/CMI, and we've got a YouTube as well as a Critical Materials Institute channel. Want to encourage this webinar group again to join us again on December 7th, when Lance Miller from NANA Regional Corporation will present ANC's at 50+ responsible mineral development and helping to solve the minerals crisis. Of course, always registration information is in Critical Times newsletter, and in the website above. You can find it on social media as well. I asked earlier if you have any ideas for topics into the new year. We'd love to hear from you on the exit survey or email. And again, Terrence, thank you so much for a great presentation. Again, everybody, Terrence Mosley from the Department of Energy, EERE, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future.
Hey, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.